Hello and welcome to another Ruislip Lido Railway video. In this video I'll be giving you a fleet update on a number of projects that we currently have in motion. I'll be talking mostly over still pictures that members of our team have taken as the projects move further along. Let's start with our newly acquired steam locomotive Dooall. Dooall left its previous home in Evesham and arrived at John Fowler & Co in Cumbria in January, where the team wasted no time in stripping down the locomotive to its component parts to start the required work. A recent visit from the RLR project team has taken place to inspect the locomotive in dismantled form, with further technical details and work agreed now that it's been possible to see every part of the locomotive in detail. Work is currently focused on the boiler. The current one on Dooall had a ticket for a further number of years, and we were going to have the loco back without any major work in that area. However, in consultation with our boiler inspector, we've decided to put a new 10-year ticket on the boiler, and this will be agreed shortly, pending inspections and non-destructive testing to establish what work is required. The production of new wheel sets throughout the locomotive and tender is also underway. It was already known that the driving wheels were life expired, but we have now agreed to renew the tender and pony truck wheels as well. As can be seen from the pictures on the screen now, the side water tanks were in a poor state internally, and this was another known fact before we bought Dooall. So new, slightly simplified side tanks for the locomotive will be constructed. Further work has taken place on the design of the air and electrical systems. One change from when we covered the refurbishment work in our announcement video back in November of last year is that we intended to remove the axle driven compressor and have two electric air compressors in its place. Based on the engineer's advice at Fowler's, we've now agreed to keep the axle driven compressor, which will provide most of the air we need for the brakes, and have only one electric air compressor which will be used for the start of the day or long periods where the locomotive is at a stand. Aside from the known items requiring attention on the locomotive, everything else appears in good working order, and we hope to do a further update video on Dooall in the future as the work progresses. The project to return diesel locomotive Tony back to traffic has already been publicised on our Facebook page, but as yet it hasn't been mentioned here on our YouTube channel, so an explanation for our viewers is required. This project is actually a collaboration between three railways: the Ruislip Lido Railway, the Littlehampton Miniature Railway and the Fairbourne Miniature Railway in North Wales, all of which we have links with. Tony is owned by Fairbourne but has been out of use for some years due to mechanical issues, the main item being the life-expired transmission. When we converted Graham Alexander from diesel to battery electric, the mechanical transmission, which was still in good condition, became surplus to requirements and was stored at the RLR pending sale to another party. After discussions with Fairbourne, it became apparent that the transmission would be ideal to get Tony back into traffic, but with a limited budget for the work, a deal was negotiated for the RLR to donate the transmission to Fairbourne in return for having Tony as part of our fleet for a loan period of 3 years when the work was completed. So far, only us and Fairbourne have been mentioned in detail, but this is now where the Littlehampton Miniature Railway becomes involved. Neither the RLR or Fairbourne had the capacity to take on the work required for the Tony project. However, the Chief Mechanical Engineer at Littlehampton, Tom Sanders, who had already completed an overhaul of his own steam locomotive Christopher, and who also has links to Fairbourne, graciously volunteered his time and expertise to get the loco back in working order. And after ratification from the other members of the Littlehampton management, the deal for the work was signed. Tony arrived at Littlehampton back in April 2025, and the work to return it back to traffic has progressed well in the last 12 months, where Chief Engineer Tom has been working almost continuously on the project. The initial scope of just fitting the ex-Graham Alexander transmission to Tony and curing the long-term issues that had seen the loco out of use for so long has developed significantly, and it is now turned into a full overhaul, which makes sense while the locomotive is completely stripped down. Tom has completed a great deal of work already, aided by a small team of other volunteers at Littlehampton. Apart from the transmission, the bogies have completely been rebuilt and work on them has been done to make them driven on both axles once again. While in that area, a new brake setup has also been designed. Both cabs are in the process of extensive refurbishments and changes. Tony wasn't designed with footwells for the driver's feet, so with the moving of the bogies underneath more towards the centre of the loco, this has created the space needed and is a welcome addition to improve driver comfort. The refurbished Land Rover engine has now been successfully mated with the XRLR transmission, using custom-made plates designed by Tom. The setup has been tested and found to be working well. New engine mounts have also been made and the engine temporarily fitted. Modification to the buffer beams to restore their original shape and profile have been made, along with the final livery design chosen. Other minor aesthetic improvements to return the locomotive to something closer to its original 1961 incarnation, Sylvia, are planned. Tony will undergo testing and running in at Littlehampton when completed, before being transferred to the RLR, which in turn will allow for some long-term work on our own diesel fleet. Keep your eyes peeled for some further exciting Tony news soon. If you've been wondering why you haven't seen our diesel locomotive Robert out on the line for the past 2.5 years, then this update will explain all. The loco has sadly been out of service following a failure of the timing belt in 2023. The head of the engine was removed and skimmed by a local company and new valves installed by our workshop team in early 2024. The opportunity to undertake work and renew components on the hydraulic system and improve the maintainability of the locomotive saw a decision to remove the engine completely. As with Tony, what was to be just an engine fix has now turned into a general overhaul, and we are now at the stage where large amounts of time are needed to rewire the locomotive and complete a revised air system. Being that Robert only ever saw use on high days and holidays, and such is the pressure to keep the rest of our rolling stock fleet in good working order, the decision was made to finish the work by an external contractor, Steam Workshop, who are based near Leeds. Robert left the railway in late March for work to commence over a roughly 3-month period. As well as hydraulic and wiring upgrades, the work on Robert will include changes to improve the reliability of the engine and some modifications to the glow plug arrangement, and an upgraded alternator. A new cooling system with a radiator will also be fitted, along with a new custom exhaust, again with the aim of making everything more maintainable in the future. Finally, Robert will be stripped to bare metal and redundant holes in the bodywork filled, along with new inserts to replace the damaged ones in the windows on the front and the rear of the loco. A full repaint to the same spec as our other rolling stock will result in a shine to the paintwork never seen before on Robert. The livery of British Rail Blue with yellow ends will remain the same as previously. It is hoped that all of the work undertaken by Steam Workshop will give the locomotive a significant new lease of life, improving its reliability indefinitely. With 3 train services now operating at the RLR on a regular basis, it is planned to expand the training programme on Robert to qualify all of our diesel drivers on it, enabling regular use on the service for the foreseeable future. Our last item for this fleet update is not about a locomotive, but our very own track tamping machine. The tamping machine arrived at the railway in June 2021 and has seen plenty of use since then, working on almost every inch of RLR track, as well as visits to Fairbourne to support the track maintenance programme there. A single-cylinder diesel engine is fitted to provide the required power for the hydraulic pump and functions of the Tamper. Over time, the original diesel engine has proved to be increasingly unreliable, with multiple head gasket failures, camshaft problems and oil leaks. While the engine has been kept going in-house, the increasing disruption to planned works with the tamping machine and difficulty in finding skilled labour to undertake the maintenance in our workshop has led us to seek a permanent upgrade. The engine currently fitted is a Chinese copy of a Kubota EA300 series engine. This engine type has several unique design characteristics that are crucial to the operation of the Tamper. These engines are low RPM, high torque water-cooled engines and incorporate a large external flywheel. Whilst it would be possible to retrofit a modern high-speed air-cooled diesel or petrol engine to the machine, this would require modification to the structure and transmission of the machine, with associated cost implications. It is therefore most sensible to replace the current engine with an original Japanese-built Kubota unit, ensuring the most cost-effective solution with no compromise in the machine's performance, whilst increasing the mechanical resilience. These engines are hard to find in the UK, but a new unit has been sourced and tested. Further work will take place on the rail lifting clamp, which has caused increasingly poor performance of the machine over time. The clamp mechanism currently engages with the underside of the railhead actuated by a hydraulic ram. Lifting feet are then lowered onto the ballast, lifting the machine and the track with it, enabling tamping to take place to put the track at the correct top and cross level. The clamp has been fulfilling the design specification, but has now become difficult to use due to the inability to clamp the rail properly. The design is vulnerable to high rates of wear within the complex arrangements of linkages and pivot pins. The clamp has suffered damage during use and has received various rebuilds at both Ruislip and Fairbourne over the past few years. The design team at the Steam Workshop, where the machine has gone along with Robert, has worked through the functions and failings of the currently fitted clamp, and several opportunities to simplify, strengthen and improve the mechanism have been identified. A range of ideas are under consideration to provide a more effective rail clamp which incorporates a positive locking mechanism to ensure the rail cannot be dropped once the clamp has taken the weight. The main point of failure identified with the current design is the clamp's reliance on the hydraulic cylinders to maintain its grip on the railhead. As this hydraulic equipment ages, it is common for a small amount of hydraulic fluid to bypass either the spool valve in the control console or the piston in the hydraulic ram. Either of these failure modes will result in the clamping force reducing and lead to the clamp slipping from the rail. A locking mechanism which does not require constant hydraulic pressure will resolve this. When the Tamper is back with us, further work later in the year will address the life-expired handbrake arrangement, as well as various hydraulic seal issues and hydraulic hose replacement all round on the machine.